A round of applause to Jyoti Ben for such a wonderful session today. All right. So we will now move to our next equally interesting session. So we have among us Parul Kala. Today's topic she's going to be discussing with us is nutrition for healthy aging. I think you all probably saw in the newsletter, right? We're all getting older. That's the topic. And as we age, our nutritional needs also change. How do we stay healthy as we get older? What is the right diet? We will discuss foods to eat, foods to avoid, and lifestyle changes that help with overall health. So for those of you who don't know her, I was introduced to Parul Ben, again, thanks to Kamlesh Bhai and Jyoti Bhavi, few years back when she visited us at our annual Jain camp. And when I listened to her, there was like her approach to the way we treat diet and the lifestyle. It struck a chord with me because the way she explained even the simplest topics, or debunk some of our common myths, like just always eating dishes that are typically made out of wheat, like apne nanpan ma, and everybody says rotli khao, bakri khao. And even I remember even a simple myth like that, she had a very nice approach to explain some of our common approaches and how we should think about it. So I figured she would be a great person to come back to us and address. Of course, this would have been great if we were in person, but through the medium of this virtual WebEx, I think we can take advantage of her knowledge and some of the topics that she had covered in past. So Parul Ben is MS, RD, LDN. She's a registered dietitian and licensed nutritionist. She has a Bachelor's of Science degree in Food and Nutrition and a Master's of Science in Dietetics. She's earned Certificate of Training in Food Allergies and Intolerances and a Certificate of Training in Vegetarian Nutrition from the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics. She works at the Wakemeyer Hospital as a clinical outpatient dietitian, and she has also recently started her own private practice. Her mission is to help achieve overall health for the body and mind with a no diet approach, right? So, diets are just as they come and go. So she has a unique approach to that. She assists people in making practical and balanced lifestyle changes, individualized and personalized nutrition counseling, and can help you whether you currently have a diagnosed nutrition or medical condition, or you just want to take preventative measures and improve your overall quality of life. So with that, I would like to invite Parul Ben to lead us for the next for the session. Over to you, Parul Ben.
Thank you, Anand Bhai, for that wonderful introduction. And thank you, Jyoti, for that, again, wonderful yoga session. I'm sure it awakened everybody. So now everybody is able to kind of channel their energy and focus as to what we are going to talk about. That was a very relaxing session for me as well. So thank you, Jyoti, for doing that. And thank you again to the committee for inviting me for this presentation. So I am going to share my screen with my PowerPoint. All right. Can everybody see this?
Yes, we can see the, yes.
Perfect. Okay. All right.
Parul Ben, sorry, one quick thing.
Sure.
Do you want to have people hold the questions till the end?
How
do you
yeah,
prefer?
I think that would be a good idea. So I mean, in case you feel like you are going to forget your question, maybe just type it in the chat. Because as I'm talking, if questions come up, then if you want to just type your questions in the chat, then I can go through them at the end. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. All right. So today we are going to talk about healthy aging. And again, when we use the term aging, people always think of, older, adults or seniors, as we call them. But we are all aging, right? From the minute we are born, we start aging. So the aging process is about, advancing in the years, whether currently you are 25 or 65, doesn't really matter, because all of us are aging. So what we want to do is that we want to, first of all, when we talk about, healthy, how do we get healthy, right? So before we talk about how do we get healthy, we want to kind of define what is healthy and what is unhealthy. Because again, people have a lot of misconceptions about this terms. So as you can see in this chart, and for those of you who are, if you can keep your view to the speaker view, then you'll be able to see the slides in a much better way. But anyway, so when we talk about unhealthy lifestyle, the one thing to always remember is that we have only one body, right? We have only one single body. Everything is connected from the inside. So for, let's say, one person may have diabetes, one person may have high blood pressure, one person may have, something else. But these are all connected. These are all connected. So when you have one thing, you are more prone to having something else. So that's something to keep in mind, that you may feel that, oh, I don't have diabetes, so it's okay if I eat sweets all the time because I don't have diabetes. But so yes, you may not have diabetes and your insulin may be working correctly. Great. But then that does not mean that whatever you do, those unhealthy lifestyle practices, it's not causing something else, right? Because like I said, everything is connected. So that is something to always keep in mind, that whether it is your physical, lifestyle, or mental stress, or any other unhealthy behaviors, such as excess alcohol, smoking, things like that, it is all going to affect your body, and it is all going to cause some of these, diseases and disorders. So this was about what is unhealthy. Now let's define health. What is health? So this is the definition that was created by the World Health Organization, that health is a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being, and not merely the absence of disease. So just because you do not have any kind of diagnosed diseases does not automatically mean that you are healthy. Health is a state of not only physical, but also mental and also social well-being. And this we also know from Ayurveda. So in Ayurveda, in one of our Vedas, this Sushrut Samhita, in there is this shlok in Sanskrit. It's called Samadoshaha Samagnischa Samadhatu Malakriyah Prasannatmendriya Yamana Swasta Ityamidhiyate. So what this means is that balanced energies, balanced state of fire inside our stomach, and we'll talk about that in just a second. So balanced energies, balanced state of fire, balanced tissues and excretions, peace of soul, senses, and mind. This is called health. So whether we talk about Western medicine, like the definition from the World Health Organization, or whether we talk about our own, Ayurvedic principles, this sense of health is, again, mind, body, and soul, right? So it all has to be balanced. So we will talk about today these 10 tips for healthy aging. So we'll go through each of these individually. So number one is eat right. And because I'm a dietitian, I'm going to focus most of my presentation on this food part, eat right. But then there are these other 9 steps as well. So let's start with the food part. So the first question is, why do we eat? And this is a question. So if think about it, we'll get to the answer towards the end of the nutrition part. But yeah, why do we eat? So always keep that in mind, and we'll get some answers to that question. So did you know that we have a second brain? So we have one brain in the head. That's part of what is known as our central nervous system. And then we have another brain in our gut that is known as the enteric nervous system, E-N-T-E-R-I-C, enteric. And enterals means intestines. So we have two brains actually. And so the gut brain, or the brain that sits inside of our gut, the lining of our intestines and stomach, that is known as our second brain. And both of these brains, they talk to each other. So the brain and the gut, they talk to each other through this nerve. It's called the vagus nerve. So the vagus nerve is literally, think about it like a USB wire. You know, one end plugs into the gut, the other end plugs into the brain, and information through neurochemicals is flowing both ways, right? That's why we have phrases like gut instinct, right? So you think you make a decision through your gut instinct. Or let's say when you are feeling nervous, right? Those are brain sensations. You are feeling nervous. We say I have butterflies in my stomach, right? So that's how we know that a lot of these sensations or a lot of these phrases are not just sayings that actually is true. So your brain and your gut are constantly talking to each other. So in a normal gut, we are supposed to have 1 trillion different microorganisms. We use the word gut bacteria, but for those of you who are into science, especially microbiology, you know that it's not just bacteria. You know, there are viruses and fungi and, parasites and all kinds of different microorganisms. But for the ease of it, or for the simplicity of it, we just use the word gut bacteria. So we are supposed to have 1 trillion different species living inside of our gut. And actually, we are supposed to have more gut microbes than cells inside of our body. Okay. So your gut microbiome is actually as unique to you as your fingerprint. So each person's gut biome is uniquely different. So this is kind of like the blueprint of your health. Your health depends upon how diverse and how healthy your gut microbiome is. So the foods that you eat, the right foods that you eat, will give you the energy to sustain life, and the wrong foods can actually cause what we call dysbiosis, where you have more bad bacteria than good bacteria. Okay. So this also, again, we know from Sanskrit as well. So Hippocrates, who is considered to be the father of modern medicine, in 4th century BC, he put out this statement called "all disease begins in the gut." And the same thing we know from Sanskrit as well, right? So in Sanskrit, or Ayurveda, in Ayurveda, we know that we talk about this Agni in the stomach. So not only in the stomach, but the Agni is present in a lot of different points throughout the body. But especially the Agni that is in the stomach is known as Jaఠragni. So Jatha is the stomach in Ayurveda. And so we know that when you have an active fire that digests the food, then you have a healthy body. And when you don't have that, when your Agni is not working correctly, then you will have disease. So the gut bacteria in the body affects not only your physical health, but also your mental health. So as you can see in this poster on the right, mental issues such as anxiety, depression, Parkinson's, autism, schizophrenia, and then physical diseases such as chronic diseases such as obesity, diabetes, cancer, and then inflammatory diseases such as Crohn's, ulcerative colitis, arthritis, food intolerances and allergies, especially like irritable bowel syndrome, each and everything, whether it is physical or mental, is connected to how effective your gut microbiome is. So the National Institutes of Health actually studied this and they created a 7 to 10 year human microbiome project from the years, if I remember correctly, 2007 to 2014. And after that, they did something called gene mapping. So where they actually mapped out all the genes of the microbiome. So not only, and what they discovered is that, we have the genes in our DNA, but the microbes that live inside our gut, they have their own DNA, they have their own genes. And that was kind of like a huge discovery that led to all kinds of different researches that are still ongoing. So we are, like this article in the New Yorker says, germs are us. What we are, and that's why, when we say a phrase like we are what we eat, that's where this is kind of, validated, that yes, we are what we eat, because what we eat is taken by these germs, and then, that the germs are what process our food, digestion, absorption, and then help create our cells. So that's how the food becomes us, basically. So this is what I referred to earlier, dysbiosis. So the word dysbiosis is that you are missing the healthier microbes and you have more bad microbes than good microbes. So bad, more bad bacteria than good bacteria. And these are some of the influencers. So our microbiome, rather, as it is known as, the whole environment inside, is actually determined even before our birth. So even before our birth, the diet of the mother, and then the birth process, whether it was a natural process or whether it was a C-section, and then whether the baby was breastfed versus formula fed, whether what kind of diet the baby ate as a child, whether it was really good homemade food or whether it was a lot of the packaged processed foods. So our gut microbes are constantly changing, right from the minute we are born. But then there are other influencers, meaning medications. Are you taking a lot of antibiotics? Or even as a child, like, did you have a lot of ear infections and things like that where you needed a lot of antibiotics? Are you having a lot of, anti-reflux medications, what are known as PPIs? A lot of these, antacids and things like that, that can kill the gut bacteria. Any other kind of toxins, pesticides, artificial colors, artificial sweeteners, artificial chemicals, preservatives. So these are toxins. Alcohol, stress, hyper hygienic lifestyle. So I know in the COVID era, it's kind of a necessity, but in general, when years ago they came out with everything antibacterial hand soap, antibacterial dishwasher soap, antibacterial laundry detergent, do we really need to kill all the gut bacteria, right? And that's why in the beginning, of course, the whole unfortunately, the way COVID management was handled in India is really, really sad. But in the beginning, when the COVID outbreak happened everywhere, India was not as affected. And in fact, people were saying that actually that's because people in India have a naturally stronger immune system because they are exposed to all these diverse microbes. So that was considered to be a plus point. Unfortunately, the management of it, and that's that's a whole other story. But yeah, the more diverse microbes you have or you interact with, the better for you. Okay, and when you have this dysbiosis, it can lead to food intolerances and allergies. It can lead to inflammation. It can lead to immune diseases. So keeping in mind this food-brain connection is that what you eat can have a powerful effect on your energy, your physical energy, as well as your mood. And the best way to manage your energy, mood, and hunger is to eat foods that fill you up, choose foods that provide sustainable energy, and eat foods that are what we call nutrient dense. So we'll go a little bit more in detail of what that means. So coming back to the question of why do we eat? Of course, we eat to get energy. We eat to get the nutrients that build our bones and tissues and cells and muscles. But the most important reason we eat is to feed the probiotic microorganisms that live in the gut. Okay? So these probiotic microorganisms, they are alive. They are living creatures and they need to be fed. And that's why the food we eat is the fuel for the probiotic microorganisms. So whenever you are eating, always keep that in mind, that you are eating not because you want to eat, but you are eating, the primary purpose of eating is to feed the gut bacteria. So the gut bacteria, they need only one thing, right? Of course, we need for energy and mood and things like that, we need, a protein and carbohydrates and all these other vitamins and minerals and things like that. But the probiotic bacteria, they need only one thing, which is fiber. And when I say fiber, I'm not talking about Metamucil or Isabgol or, Fiber One bars or Raisin Bran cereal. I'm not talking about any of that. Fiber coming from real food. So fiber makes happy gut bacteria. So we need to eat foods that nourish us. So what are those? Whole grains, intact whole grains, not only just, load made from whole wheat, but the actual grains. So again, diversity is the key for everything. So the more variety you eat, the better for you. And just referring back to what Anand mentioned about the previous talk we had given, I just want to emphasize that I'm not saying that wheat is bad, but what happens is that when we, in a normal day-to-day basis, we often do not have that diversity. So when we have breakfast is khakro, and then lunch is rotli, and then, snack might be a biscuit or something else, and then again, dinner is again, bhakri or rotli. So in the whole day, we are only eating wheat, right? We are only eating gauni vastu. We are not eating anything else. So that's where this variety is important. So it could be wheat, it could be fada, for example, but then also include other grains, and the other grains can be, bajri, jowar, any other variety of millet like ragi. And then here, there are even more varieties available, like you could have, oats or quinoa or buckwheat or, so there are so many varieties of whole grains. So make sure that you have that variety and make sure that you include more whole grains than load. Okay. So whole grains are important because they are not only rich in the complex carbohydrates and proteins, but they also give us micronutrients, minerals, such as magnesium, tryptophan, fiber, so these are these other micronutrients that are present in grains. Then again, beans, pulses, legumes. So again, with a typical Gujarati, meal, we may either just eat too much tuver dal, right? Or we may eat, maybe one or two other things, maybe like magni dal or mag, but we are limited to like just 2 or 3 varieties, right? So there again, we want as much variety as possible. So all kinds of beans and pulses, whole or in form of a dal, but beans and pulses are very healthy because they have complex carbohydrates, they have protein, they have minerals such as iron, phosphorus, manganese, magnesium, calcium. Again, there is a myth that calcium is only present in dairy foods, right? But all the white colored beans, whether it is chole, chana, basically all white colored beans. Chola, so all the white colored beans have calcium in it. And then they also have the B vitamins and of course fiber. The largest portion of fiber is present in beans and pulses. Sprouting, if you can do that, that would be great. So I know in some, strict Jain practices, sprouting is not allowed. But if you are allowed to do that, and if you are open to that, then sprouting the beans actually makes them much easier to digest. And also the nutrient content is concentrated. So if you are allowed and if you can do that, then definitely sprout beans. And then healthy fats. So what we want to do is that we want to cut out unhealthy fats and we want to add healthy fats, because these foods, the nuts and seeds, they not only have the healthy fats, but they also have minerals such as zinc and magnesium. And they also have what we call the omega-3 fats. So the omega-3 fats are helpful in reducing triglycerides. So that is one thing to remember, because all of our, Indian population, we are at an increased risk of heart disease and diabetes because we have a tendency to have higher triglycerides. So triglycerides you can lower by including foods such as ground flax seeds and chia seeds, walnuts, and avocado. Okay. Flax seeds, I will just mention કે મોટાભાગના લોકો flax seeds ખોટી રીતે ખાતા હોય છે. મોટાભાગના લોકો they roast the flax seeds, શેકી અને પછી મુખવાસ તરીકે ખાતા હોય છે. So that is actually not good. Flax is not supposed to be heated, so please અને શેકતા નહીં કે રોટલીના લોટમાં ના નાખતા. Flax is not supposed to be heated. It's supposed to be eaten raw, and our body cannot digest whole flax seeds. If તમે આખા flax seeds ખાઓ તો it's not doing anything. It has to be powdered. So powder the flax seeds and 1 tablespoon per day, just raw powder. You can mix it into anything you are eating. So તમે સમજો કે oatmeal બનાવ્યું હોય તો just ખાતી વખતે, when you serve yourself, બાઉલમાં you can sprinkle that one tablespoon of flax seeds. અથવા તો તમે જે ખાતા હો તે શાકની અંદર મિક્સ કરી શકો કે ભાતની અંદર મિક્સ કરી શકો, પણ just 1 tablespoon raw flax seeds. If you are really having higher triglycerides, you can increase to 2 tablespoons per day. But like I said, just raw powder. Then we want to make sure we are eating a rainbow. So put color on your plate, because every color has a different set of nutrients. So the green color is chlorophyll, and all the green colored fruits and vegetables. They help lower risk of cancer, help with vision, and help strong bones and teeth. All the green vegetables also have calcium, especially broccoli, green leafy vegetables such as kale, collard greens, mustard greens, which is known as sarson. So you can have saag, not from the restaurant, which is full of cream and but homemade. Other really good vegetable from the Asian, set, which is very high in calcium, is bok choy. So I don't know if you've eaten bok choy, but bok choy is very high in calcium. So you can make kind of like a stir fry with it. Orange color are carotenoids. Those are the antioxidants that are good for your heart, good for vision, very good for liver as well. All the yellow colored fruits and vegetables are very good for your liver. And building healthy immune system, lowering risk of cancers. Reds are lycopenes, and also to some degree anthocyanins. These are the antioxidants that are present in red fruits and vegetables. Purple are also anthocyanins, anthocyanthins. So these are also very, very healthy. And then white is also a color. So especially white colored vegetables such as cauliflower and the root vegetables, ginger, garlic, if you eat them, because these are also have been proven to help lower cholesterol. So basically, like I said, is when we eat, we are eating to support a healthy gut, support a healthy microbiome inside of our gut. So we have the prebiotic fibers. So all the fiber-rich foods are actually known as prebiotics. So we get the prebiotic fibers from the whole grains, the beans, peas, lentils, fruits, vegetables, nuts, and seeds. So these are all the foods that give us fiber, the prebiotic fiber. And then we want the probiotics from fermented foods. So in the here in the West, we get fermented foods such as sauerkraut, kimchi, kombucha, but we can also get it from any of our traditional ethnic fermented foods such as pickles. And when I say pickles, I'm talking about fresh pickles, not pila bar mahinana tel bharela athana, not like that, but fresh pickles. So you make them with especially the methi, રાઈ મેથી નાખીને આપણે ગાજર કે મરચા કર્યા હોય અને you just do that, soak it for a couple of days and then eat it fresh, right? So એવા fresh અથાણા. And then also fermented foods such as dhokla, idli, dosa. So anything that ferments will give that probiotic bacteria. And also dahi, any kind of yogurt. So that is also, that has probiotics. So try to get it from food as much as possible. I don't recommend too many supplements. So try to get these probiotics and prebiotics as much as you can from the foods. So we want to make sure that you are eating balanced meals at regular intervals. So this is ideally how a plate should look. Half your plate should be vegetables. So that could be a shak and a salad, or the whole thing could be a salad, or the whole thing could be like a vegetable soup, but a variety of vegetables. So eat a rainbow, right? We went through all the different colors. So eat a rainbow as much as possible. And then for a vegetarian meal, you get protein from all the different, beans and pulses. You can include tofu as well if you want instead of paneer. Tofu is a much better choice. And then the any kind of grains, right? It could be rotli or bhakri, but not every day if possible. Include the intact whole grains as much as possible. If you want to do pasta, that's perfectly fine too, but choose like a multi-grain, whole grain pasta. So as much intact grains as possible. Normally what happens is that, we think of shak as a side dish. So we have a larger portion of the rotli and bhat, and shak is much smaller, right? So we want to change that, where the largest portion of food on the plate is coming from the vegetables. And fruit, what I generally recommend is eat fruit as part of your breakfast, or if you need an afternoon snack, then eat a fruit in the afternoon. So fruit is breakfast and snack in the afternoon, and lunch and dinner is basically vegetables. Okay. Excuse me. So this is a plate that is, excuse me, just a second. Sorry about that. So this is a plate that was created by the Canada Canada Nutrition Association. And this is much better than the plate that was created by the USDA, which is the United States. So I like the Canada plate better because, as you can see, that same principle, half your plate is fruits and vegetables. Although, like I said, I like to keep the fruits separate. But then you have choices of protein. And of course, I mean, this is a Western kind plate, so they do have some animal protein in there. But compared to the US plate, which has just a big hunk of meat on the center, the US plate, I mean, the Canada plate gives you the choices. It also has beans and nuts and tofu on the plate, right? And then the variety of grains. So a lot more whole grains than the bread or the pasta. So this is again from the Canada plate. It says, be mindful of eating habits, cook more often, so limit eating out, enjoy your food. And this is, again, from the Ayurvedic perspective also, this is really, really important. Enjoy what you eat. Do not think of food as a diet. Do not have guilt associated with food. And then eat meals with others, which of course in COVID has not been possible too much, but as much as possible, at least with your family. So eat meals with others. And then use food labels, not to read numbers, not to just read numbers, but use labels to read ingredients. And the shorter the ingredient list, the better the food. Okay. So for example, if you are buying a jar of peanut butter, then the ingredient on there should be peanuts. That's it. You don't have anything else in it, right? So anything you buy that has a long paragraph full of ingredients, don't buy that. And be very aware of food marketing. And then the last thing on the food part is rethink your drink. Make sure that you are drinking water as much as possible, because water is what our cells are made up of. And that is basically what we need. So really, really cut out all other beverages, including the diet beverages. And this is especially true if you have younger kids. Juice boxes, Capri Sun, fruit punches, things like that. Really, really, please cut them out. Even Gatorade. It's all a whole bunch of marketing. And the saddest part is that all of these kids' beverages have so much artificial colors, which are linked to attention deficit and lack of focus and things like that. So we really want to cut out any products that have these artificial colors. Okay. So the summary for the diet part, the first part, eat right. How do we eat right? We avoid things that cause harm and cause disease. And then we eat a diet that promotes overall health. So one size does not fit all. Each person is different. Like I said, you have your own unique microbiome. So your diet depends on your personal, medical, and family history, right? And from Ayurvedic perspective also, as they say, each person's dosha is different. So you want to make sure that what you eat is good for you, right? So just because one person did some kind of diet and lost 20 pounds does not mean that will work for you. Okay, so please do not get into these marketing gimmicks. Please don't do any kind of fad diets. Okay, so that was nutrition. The second part to being, healthy aging is being active. And we already went through a wonderful session with Jyoti. So the key to thinking about exercise is, I read this, I really like this quote, that exercise is a celebration of what your body can do and not a punishment for what you ate. And this is very, very important, especially because this gym culture, a lot of the times when you go to the gyms, they have posters saying that, okay, if you ate 3 donuts, then you need to, walk 5 miles. It doesn't work that way, right? If you walk 5 miles, it's not those 3 donuts that you are going to burn, right? So always keep that in mind, that just because you eat something unhealthy and then you will say that, okay, now is the time, okay, go exercise. It doesn't work that way. So keep exercise and food both as a celebration to the fact that you are alive, the fact that you are living. That is a blessing. So count that as a blessing and celebrate your life with food and exercise. So whatever works for you, if you are not able to stand up for too long because of whatever ailment you might have, do chair exercises. And that's what we did today, right? We did, like a chair exercise. If you are not able to sit for too long, you can do other things, And a couple of weeks ago, Jyoti did a wonderful presentation for another group where 90% of those exercises was just standing. We were just standing the whole time. And it was a wonderful session. So keep in mind that you also need some strength training, so weights, stretching, exercise bands, whatever works for you. But yeah, be active. Basically, make sure that you are not sitting in one place for too long. The third and really, really important one is getting adequate sleep. So we have something called a circadian rhythm. Our body has its own internal clock. And that internal clock is supposed to match with the sunrise and sunset. So for, if you like stay up too late, like past midnight, and if you have really irregular habits, one day you eat, one day you don't eat, one day you eat at 8 o'clock, one day you eat at 10 o'clock, so that is not good. So we want to make sure that we have an established routine. You wake up at the same time, you sleep at the same time. And then keep this schedule of keep these tips for better sleep. So the time you work out, the time you eat, match that rhythm throughout, so basically getting adequate sleep is important. If you need, take a small nap, and that is also recommended from Ayurveda. In Ayurveda, it's called Vamakokshi. I don't know if you're familiar with this word, but my my dad uses that all the time. So after lunch, right? That is the small, short, 20-minute nap. Not a 2-hour nap, but a short 20-minute nap. Sleeping on your left side. That's why it's called Vam. Vam in Sanskrit means left. So after lunch, it would be like, okay, now time for Vamakokshi. But yeah, it has to be 20 minutes short, not longer than that. And basically you sleep on your left side so that you digest your food. So if you need that, take that. And again, it does not have to be in bed. It could also be on your couch or even just a recliner. So if you need that, take that 20-minute short nap. But otherwise, like keep a routine for waking and sleeping, which is really important. Because now, again, with the research on the gut microbiome, there is so much more information coming out about this circadian rhythm. Number 4, manage stress. You may not even know that you have stress, right? But stress is really, really important to manage because it affects your overall health, and stress creates these chemicals in the body that can cause all kinds of issues. So it can affect your mood, it can affect your memory, it can affect just general aches and pains, it can affect your digestion, it can cause you to gain weight, it can adversely affect your heart, and it can weaken your immune system. So when you have stress, it increases this chemical in the body called cortisol, and cortisol levels can cause all these other issues, right? So it is very, very important to manage stress. You can do that through meditation, you can do that through yoga, you can do that through regular breathing techniques, pranayam, go out for a walk, whatever you need to, but manage that stress. Learn how to manage that. Stress is inevitable. We are all going to have some kind of stressors, right? But so it's impossible not to have stress, but it is important to learn how to manage that stress. The fourth or the fifth point rather to healthy aging is feed your brain. So feeding your brain meaning train your brain to do something different, right? Whether it is your creative brain, working your creating brain with music, with art, knitting, reading, whatever you want to do, you're activating that side of the brain, the creative side of the brain. You can activate your social side of the brain by bonding with your family, using technology, right? In this COVID era, we are doing Zoom meetings, playing chess, checkers, things like that, playing with pets if you have them, problem solving, that is another area of the brain. So crossword puzzles, Sudoku, playing other games. And then if you're by yourself, again, silence, meditation, writing a journal, whatever you can do, but feed all these different areas of the brain. And this has shown to help with preventing your, issues such as Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, memory loss, things like that. Family relationships, either in person or through Zoom or, whichever way you want, phone calls, WhatsApp, but continue with those relationships. Social connections, like what we are doing now, join a group. Learn something as well as teach something, right? Learning and teaching, they both help because they feed different areas of your brain. When you are learning something, you are feeding a different area of your brain. When you are teaching something, you are feeding a different area of your brain. Volunteering is extremely important. Yeah, just stay connected with your family and friends, because that really helps manage your stress. And then practice protection. So check medications, make sure that you talk to your doctor, talk to your pharmacist, making sure that whatever you're taking, you're not overdoing it. Of course, regular exercise, so that it helps you balance and you prevent falling and prevent hip fractures and things like that. Wear the right shoes. And protection, meaning that if you are at a stage where you absolutely need a cane or need a walker, then do that. There is no shame in that. So please make sure that you practice protection. And then regular checkups to make sure that all your numbers are staying within the normal limits. So in case you do need medication, you do take that. So of course, prevention is better than cure, but if you reach a stage where you absolutely need need that medication, then you have to take it. And then take care of yourself. Breathe. Positive thinking, relaxing, forgiveness goes a long way. And of course, I mean, I'm talking to I'm preaching the choir. So like we say, the Michami Dukadam part is not just once a year, but on a day-to-day basis. And so coming back to a summary of all of this is your lifestyle. So stay regular. The more regular you do everything, more regularly you do everything, our body loves a routine. So eating at the same time, sleeping at the same time, all your activities at the same time. So practice that mindfulness, physical activity, and reducing stress. So those are all the key things for your healthy aging. So good nutrition, physical activity, positive thinking, social connections, disease management, and establishing a routine. So just as a kind of like a mindfulness activity, think about all the things that we talked about, and based on what we just learned, what does your daily routine look like? What are the things that you feel like that you need to change? So just keep that as your own mindfulness activity. You can do that on your own later today, but think about that, like based on everything that we talked about, what are some of the things that you feel that you might need to change, not as just yourself, but also as a family. Are there some changes that you do need to make as a family? Okay. So that's basically it. And let thy food be thy medicine, be thy medicine be thy food. There are a lot of shlokas, Sanskrit shlokas also, that say the same thing. So that's pretty much it. I'll just end with just some information about if anybody needs a consult, like Anand I mentioned earlier. I work at WakeMed. So I also have a private practice. So I am, for my private practice, like if you feel like you don't want to go through your insurance, or for some people who have like a large deductible that they don't want to go through insurance, then I can see them. I'm also licensed with Blue Cross Blue Shield. So with my private practice, I take Blue Cross. And for all other insurances such as Cigna, Aetna, anything else, or even Blue Cross, you can, or if you have Medicare, then you can see me at WakeMed. All right. So that's about it. I'm going to stop my sharing. So we can take questions.
Thank you, Parul Bain. This was a great, presentation which holistically brought together diet, exercise, sleep, stress, everything. So yeah, thanks a lot. And I'm going to request the song to, ask any questions at this point.
Right. So I'm looking at the chat and not seeing a whole bunch of questions there. So if anybody wants to unmute them, and ask questions, feel free. Yeah.
Arvind, this is Meenal here. I have a question.
Sure.
Can you talk a little bit about the fasting, right? Because in Jainism, we focus on fasting and restricting our diet to Vaishnu, Vikasnu, Ambel.
Right.
Ambel is no food, right? So how does that impact the gut bacteria? Because it seems like we should be eating all kinds of diverse food, but if you're doing attai, that's like 7 days fasting, then what happens to the bacteria then? And what about the vegan diet when we are not eating yogurt and the dairy food, right? So
right.
Thank you.
So let me start with the vegan part because it's a shorter explanation. So yes, you can become completely vegan, but there are a lot of vegan yogurts available, right? So it's not like the yogurt has to be made with dairy milk. You can, there are yogurts available with almond milk, or soy milk, coconut milk. All the milks can be converted into yogurt. So if it's just a question about yogurt, then yeah, you can definitely. There is so much more research coming out about animal proteins increasing risk of cancer and inflammation, that if you can, if not completely become vegan, at least limit the amount of dairy foods you eat, then that would really help. Okay.
So
Mhm.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So the almond milk yogurt or soy milk yogurt, do they
Mhm.
have the same type of bacteria, or the
Yes,
bacteria?
yes, they have the same type. The bacteria is the same. The only difference is in nutrients. So, for example, for example, like soy milk is very similar to regular dairy milk. It has the same amount of protein and same amount of everything. Almond milk, coconut milk, they don't have as much protein as regular milk. But again, if you are getting your protein from other sources, then milk is not the only source of protein, right? So that's not really a big deal. But yeah, the probiotic bacteria are the same. Yeah, they are the same in all the yogurts. Yeah. Yeah, so coming back to the fasting part. So again, there is a lot of research showing that yes, when you fast, it actually gives your body that rest it needs, so that it actually makes your microbiome much stronger, because it gives your body the time to kind of weed out all the unhealthy bacteria, right? So fasting is actually very beneficial. However, like I said, it has to be done. That routine of the body is very important, right? So when you do attai once a year, that's perfect, because you are doing that once a year, right? Or if you fast, let's say you decide that, okay, every Thursday you are going to fast, then that's fine. But that establishing that routine is very important. So not eating or skipping a meal is not the same as fasting, right? So like, okay, today I don't want to eat, or I miss lunch today. That is not fasting. Whether you are eating or whether you are fasting, it has to be done with a purpose, and it has to be done on a schedule. Okay. So yeah, attai, when you do it, it's perfectly fine. Or when some people do, let's say, varshitap. So that is also a routine. There is an established routine of when you are eating and which day of the week you are fasting. Or some people do alternate days, right? You eat for 24 hours and then you don't eat for 20. So whatever it is, like, there is an established routine. When you follow the routine, you'll be fine. But when things are done just completely randomly, that is when it is not good. Okay.
Thank
A
you.
lot of people these days are doing what is called intermittent fasting. That means that you eat within an 8-hour period and you don't eat for the remaining 16. That's fine too. But again, there has to be a routine. So my favorite way of, if I'm guiding somebody for intermittent fasting, my favorite 8-hour period to eat is 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. Okay, so you start your day with a lunch, an early lunch at 11, and then in the afternoon you might have a snack, and then you eat your dinner by 7. Okay, so like I said, whether you are doing any kind of like your upvas from the religion perspective, or whether you are just doing, doing it from any other kind of like a mindfulness. But like I said, it has to be done with a purpose, and it has to be done with a routine, not just randomly. Not just in a random way. I hope that answers your question.
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Any other questions?
Yeah, a quick one. This is Mayur. Thank you very much for a very insightful presentation, as always.
Sure.
So many of us have been vegan for many, many years now. This is a very general question. Is there anything that we should be more careful about in terms of adding a type of food in our diet, or removing a food from our diet, having grown up as a vegetarian and milk was an integral part for a very long time? Yeah, thank you.
Right. Yeah. So so you can be vegan and yet get all the nutrients that you need, as long as you are eating a wide variety of the different foods that we talked about. The only two things that I mentioned, to add to a vegan diet is that if you are strictly vegan, then we need to add vitamin B12. So I generally recommend just taking like a general B complex. Not because vegan diets are lacking in B12. So it's not that animal foods have B12, but so B12 is generally present in the soil and in the grasses that grow. So when cows eat that grass, the cows' stomachs, process that B12, and then it is available to the, so when people eat the animal foods, they are getting it. So the animal acts as a as that
secondary source.
As a secondary
Right.
source, exactly.
Correct.
Like the middleman, basically.
Correct.
So when because as vegans, we don't eat grass, we don't eat some of those foods directly.
Sure.
So that's why we need a supplement in form of B12. And the second thing is vitamin D, which is whether you are vegan or not, we all are low in vitamin D. So those are the two supplements that I recommend taking on a regular basis.
So
B12
those are
and
the two that we take. So thank you very much. That's
then you don't need to worry about it.
confirmation.
Yes,
Thank you.
perfect. All right. I see one question in the chat. Do teen kids need protein supplement? No, nobody needs a protein supplement. Even if you are an athlete, if you eat a diverse diet, then you will need everything that you need. I will point you to a wonderful resource. There is a blog or a website called No Meat Athlete. Okay, so look at that website. It's run by this guy called Matt Frazier. He's not Indian, he's an American guy, but he's from North Carolina. He's based in Asheville. So he has this website for athletes who are vegan. So that is No Meat Athlete. I will just write that name in the chat. No Meat Athlete. And actually, he and along with another guy, they just came out with a new book. It's brand new. Actually, it's called The Plant-Based Athlete. So that book is available through Amazon or Barnes & Noble, wherever you want to get it. If you are truly into sports, and if you are, if you are into, group sports like football or lacrosse or whatever, then I would highly encourage you to look into that book. It's called The Plant-Based Athlete. Another wonderful resource is, if you want to look at this documentary, it's on Netflix. It's called The Game Changers. So look at that documentary. It's all about professional athletes and how this whole system culture is about, okay, if you are an athlete, you have to get more protein. So you can look at that, that documentary. And then the third, especially for vegetarian teens, I will point you to this website called Vegetarian Nutrition. So the vegetarian nutrition website is actually www.vndpg.org. So if you go on their website, there is a tab called resources. And if you go to those resources, there are PDF handouts. You can download, you can print, but there are resources for every stage of life. So there is vegetarian infants, vegetarian and vegan infants, school-age children, teens, all of those are available. So, so these are the 3 different resources that you can look for. There is also another group called Vegetarian Resource Group, that is vrg.org, I think. But that is also a really good resource for any kind of nutrition information for vegetarians and vegans. All right. I'm seeing another chat. Seaweed nori. Yeah, nori is a great source for B12. Also, nutritional yeast. Nutritional yeast is also a really good source of B12. So that works. You can make your homemade kind of like a Parmesan, from the nutritional yeast. Cane sugar can replace by, I'm assuming you're talking about gall. Well, one thing to remember is that, especially if you have diabetes or if you are trying to lose weight, sugar is sugar. Okay. So yes, definitely the raw sugar, the cane sugar, or the turbinado sugar, these are definitely better because they have not undergone the chemical processes that the traditional white sugar goes through. So definitely the raw sugar is definitely better that way. But as far as the sugar is concerned, any type of sugar, when it goes into the body, it's processed exactly the same way. So it is not that if you have diabetes and instead of khand ne bole tame gol nahi cha banao, so it doesn't work that way. Whether it is khand, gol, mud, any kind of sugar, when it goes into the body, it's processed as exactly the same sugar. Okay, so the best thing to do is, I see a comment. Yeah, exactly. If you have diabetes or if you're trying to lose weight, just avoid sugar. Just drink plain cha without any sugar. Okay. So you cannot replace the white sugar with gall or mud if you have diabetes. It won't work. Yeah. All right. All right.
Thank you, Parul. Yeah. Maybe we can take one more question.
Yeah, just last
We need
questions
to-
in the interest of time. Yeah. Any last minute thoughts? Okay. Well, if you need any, like I said, personal, individual, if you have any kind of complicated issues and if you want any personal consult, let me know. But otherwise, I can email you guys a kind of like a PDF of this PowerPoint if you want to share. Then what foods you prefer for teens? The same foods. I mean, there is nothing separate that teens need to eat, Yeah, there are unfortunately no foods that will increase your height. For height, you just need exercise. And your height is based on your genes, your genetic makeup. There is nothing much we can do. So some kids will grow, their weight will grow before their height. Some kids, their height will grow before they catch up with their weight. So yeah, there is nothing much we can do. Unfortunately, your height is what you are born with. You can try, exercise and see if that makes a difference. But yeah, unfortunately, there is not much we can do for height. But yeah, just healthy eating. Whatever foods are recommended for adults, the same foods are recommended for kids as well. So the one thing that I will definitely strongly recommend, especially for those of you who have younger kids, please don't become a short order cook. Please don't think that, okay, the kids need to eat something separate than what the adults need. Everybody should be eating the same thing. And for the kids who are watching, You need to eat what your parents are eating. Not the parents should not be eating what the kids are eating. The kids should be eating what the parents are eating. All right. No, soy milk is perfectly healthy for everybody. In fact, a lot of new research. If you go to that vegetarian nutrition website, the vndpg.org, there is a wonderful handout on the health effects of soy, the beneficial health effects of soy. So if you have any questions about soy, go to that website, download that handout, and it'll give you a lot of details. Yeah, soy foods such as soy milk and tofu has been proven to actually prevent cancers, especially breast cancer. So young girls, if you start eating soy on a regular basis, it'll actually prevent breast cancer in the future. Okay. There is no proportion. There is no such thing as junk food. Food is food, and junk is junk.
Parulben, I know the kids have a lot of questions because they get different messages from the school and their
Yeah.
friends and all that, and being vegetarians. I know.
I mean, what we can do is we can do a separate session for kids if there are so many kids questions. But I know